We got a Wednesday night slate of NBA games. I'm Madelyn Burke, joined by Kev at Roto Surgeon. Kev, first of all, we got to start with this Pacers-Hornets game. LaMelo Ball is the clear favorite right now to win Rookie of the Year. Is he on track to keep that up?
It's looking like that right now. His shooting percentages aren't fantastic, but he's putting up the volume stats that people love to go for. It reminds me of like that Michael Carter-Williams year about like almost a decade ago now. And he has the name value. He's LaMelo Ball. He's a brand in and of himself. So I have a good feeling at plus 350, he has a good chance to win it. Tyrese Halliburton's coming for that throne. He's probably the better player right now, but if you want a longer shot, go for Halliburton, but I would put my money on LaMelo. I still like his plus odds and think he's just going to go take it home at the end of the day.
Of course, Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman not too far behind in the odds there, but we got to move on to Lakers-Sixers. This is probably the marquee game of the night. Lakers coming into Philly with the best record in the league, 10-0 on the road, whereas Philly has won 9 of 10 at home. But I think really the storyline in this game is the MVP. LeBron James, Joel Embiid, both up there in that conversation.
Yeah, no, LeBron's he's turning back the clock, as we like to say almost every year up to this point now. And he looked fantastic against the Cavs a few games ago. He put up 46 points and just that looked like prime LeBron. And it's like he hasn't lost a step. But at the end of the day, with how this season has gone on, there's no fans. There's really no reason to press the issue once the Lakers do clinch or get close to clinching almost that top 2 seed, essentially. So my guess is LeBron might end up sitting a few games out, maybe letting AD take the reins. And then Embiid, he has the highest win shares per 48 in the entire NBA right now. He's playing at a high level on the offensive and defensive end. So if anything, I might lead Embiid. Is there anyone else you see that possibly could be in this conversation?
Well, I mean, I think LeBron there's a lot. I mean, Jokic is in the conversation. There's a lot of people in this conversation, but LeBron really, when he sets his mind to something, he gets it. And this man has not missed a game yet this season. He's playing not just to repeat this title that he brought to LA, but he's also playing because I think he wants that trophy. And if he wants it bad enough, he's going to go out and get it. Moving on to another team with some superstars, Nets, Hawks. The big three headed to Atlanta for the first time this season. James Harden, he's still rounding into form as a member of the Brooklyn Nets, averaging 23, 7, and 11 in 6 games with Brooklyn. But he recently said it feels good not to have to score so much to give ourselves a chance to win the game. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, can this group come together and win the title this year? They're plus 350 to win it all.
I've discussed this in the past. I don't see the Brooklyn Nets winning this year just because of a mid-season addition of James Harden. It makes it so hard for this team to coexist and really share the ball in the right way to win a championship. They still are missing a few pieces. This team is lacking on the defensive end. They were leaking points to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and although that was in the first few games they played, it just felt like this is not the year for the Brooklyn Nets. James Harden, he's playing in a way that he is sharing the ball. He only has an 18% usage rate through the first few games, and that's just unheard of for someone of his caliber. That's James Harden. He usually has 30 to 35%. So for the most part with this team, I don't see it happening this year. It reminds me of that first year of the Heatles in 2011 when they lost to the Mavericks. They just were not gelled right. So maybe next year, but this year plus 350, it's just not the odds I want to take on the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe if they were longer, but for the most part, how are you feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, the offense is fine. They're not struggling at all. But defense, it seems like they lost that when they made that trade. And at the beginning of this season, the Nets, the biggest thing about the Nets that made them so special was the ridiculous depth that they had. They traded a lot of that away to get James Harden. So when they go away from the starters, they lose a lot of air in the balloon. They need to get defense. And missing Jared Allen is really apparent. I think they're going to need to add another piece at some point to be able to be strong. But they need to win soon because they have traded away so many future assets and so many young assets that if they don't win with this team, they're going to be starting over from scratch. It's going to be a tough one to lose out on that kind of opportunity there. All right, lastly, Mavs, Jazz. Jazz are on a 9-game winning streak. Look to make it double digits when they face the Mavericks for the first time this season. Luka's another MVP candidate in this game. What are your thoughts on this one, Kev?
This one's tough because as much as I like the Jazz, I like how they play. Jordan Clarkson's playing at a high level off the bench. Mike Conley, he turned back the clock as well if we're looking at players that are really looking like prime themselves. So I don't know. I don't think they can keep up this rate of play. They're a good team. There's no doubt Quinn Snyder has these boys playing as well as possible, but it just feels like they're a little in over their heads. It's just not going to sustain throughout the rest of the season. Their efficiency numbers are fantastic, but this team as a whole, it just feels like a little flawed. They're offensively playing really well, but that's going to regress a little bit. They're always going to be top 5 in defense. This team, with Rudy Gobert especially, perennial defensive player of the year candidate. But for the most part, I'm not buying the Jazz as a championship contender, but definitely a team that can make it to the Western Conference Finals and lose to a team like the Clippers or Lakers. The Mavericks on the other end just aren't healthy. They are playing well individually. Like Luka Doncic is playing fantastic. Kristaps Porzingis is looking pretty healthy again, but for the most part, they're missing so many pieces that I cannot buy into the Mavs winning this game, and I can't buy into them for the rest of the year.
And the Jazz are 12-5 against the spread overall, 6-2 against the spread at home. Yeah, I mean, the Jazz, hey, the fact that they're stacking wins, this momentum is definitely a positive. Keep that in mind when you're making your wagers for tonight's game and for the futures. We want to hear about all of your bets, and hopefully you win big. Let us know in the comments or hit us up on social media and let us know how you do.